everybody, happy Friday. I hope you guys are having a great day. The weekend is almost here, and that means you guys are going to be working on your cars this weekend, I hope. And so we have Frank here. He's going to answer any questions that you may have. But while we are waiting for some questions, we are going to have him explain to us all these different electrical wiring kits that he has here.
All right, guys, we've got some stock wiring here. Just to let you know, this is a stock fuse panel for a 55. 6 and 7s are almost the same. This is the original glass fuse panel, and pretty basic, doesn't protect a whole lot. We only have on here protection for the heater system, the radio, and backup lights, and that's pretty much it. You don't have you got a couple, you got one more fuse in the headlight switch, and you got a circuit breaker in the headlight switch, but that's about it. But when you do buy the stock replacement wiring, the wiring is all pre-wired and pre-plugged and ready to plug and play. There's a harness for each section of the car, just like factory. We've got just a couple here. Some pigtails here for the park lights, for a 57 grill bar, ready to plug right in. This one here is the alternator. Actually, this is a conversion harness that's got the alternator wiring built into it already. But here, we've got a custom harness. This custom harness here has something like 18 to 21 protected circuits, plus another 4 external circuits for power windows, power door locks, some of the most popular stuff. You've got also using ATO plastic fuses, no more of the glass fuses, more readily available at auto parts stores. Now we got laid out here some of the parts of the wiring harness that goes in the car. Now, yes, this is a much better way to go than this. Just remember that when you're putting these harnesses in, these have to be wired up. The plugs have to be crimped on. So what you're doing is you're running the wire any which way you want.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
What do you mean by crimped on?
So each end of these wires are going to be bare. There's not going to be any connectors on them. So we've got, here's a bag of connectors that are actually for you to experiment with. These are extras, so you can try crimping them with your tool and make sure your tool's doing the job. So all your wires are extra long. They can be ran either in the stock position, or you can actually hide the wiring and get a little creative so none of the wires are showing. Once you get your harness to where it's going, you cut the wires to the right length, and then you're going to crimp these plugs on. So for instance, we've got the taillight harness here. And this is another thing to bring up here. The taillight harness has your dome light wiring and your dome light switch wiring built into it. Because depending on which car, the wiring could go up on the post of a postcard, or the wiring may, in a hardtop, go all the way back to the C-pillar back by the back window. So it's a lot of wire for the dome light. Once these are ran, then they've got all the terminals to be terminated onto the ends of these wires. And they include all the grommets, the boots, and the original style pigtails that go into the taillight housings.
So everything is complete in that kit. You don't have to buy anything outside of that kit. They're
No,
good to go.
most of the time, everything's in here. Opposed, like if you were comparing it to stock wiring, there's probably going to be a couple things that you might want to purchase, but most of everything, being that this harness kit is made by the same people that do stock wiring, they can include all these pigtails. I know there's other harnesses out there. You might even find other harnesses that are cheaper, but most of those harnesses are universal. They don't include the taillight pigtails. They won't include the parklight pigtails. There's a lot of other additional stuff you would have to buy. By the time you buy all that stuff, including even an ignition switch, you're gonna spend just as much money if you would have just bought this kit in the first place. I've learned that years ago. You have to piece it together too much to make it work, and then you still don't have the proper instructions telling you how to do it in your particular year car. So this one here that they actually pulled off the shelf is actually for a 57 Chevy. We do have a kit that works in the 55 and the 56 kit that's just slightly different from this. Not much difference, but it's a little bit, and of course the instructions are going to be all for your year car. So I don't know if we got any questions coming in. If you guys want to ask any questions about the wiring too, you can.
Do you happen to know, Gilberto wants to know how much it is for a kit? I know there's different kits. You don't happen to know like about the price range?
I believe, well, on the stock wiring, since it's sold in individual pieces, I believe in the stock wiring, you're gonna spend upwards of between $500 and $600. And then the custom harness, you're looking at, I believe it's I think it's like $675 for these harnesses. Let me see part number. Actually, it's on the
Right here. Partner 11204.
Yeah, 11204.
So we'll get you a price on that, Gilberto, in a minute here.
$611.95.
Okay, so the custom harness is $611.95, and just to give you a heads up, you do get a replacement ignition switch that is also updated over the original.
So would he use he has a 1957 two-door 210. So is that the correct one he would buy?
Yeah, part number 11204 is the correct harness. It's going to include this switch with it. This switch, the upgrade of this switch is you got an actual true accessory terminal on this. Accessory on the original switch, you could not turn your radio on whenever you wanted to. This one you can turn your key switch back and your radio will come on for you. It's built into the circuit here. They give you the flashers, they give you a bag of fuses, and new horn relay. Your horn relay is now built onto the fuse panel. It's no longer on your inner fender. We've got the headlight pigtails here and the grill bar harnesses in here. This bag here is for gauges. Now, they supply you everything to rewire your stock original gauges and custom gauges. So almost any gauge cluster you purchase, if it's from Dakota Digital, if it is from Classic Instruments or even Autometer, everything's in this bag with quick disconnect plugs. So if you ever had to pull your cluster back out of your dash, all you gotta do is unplug 2 plugs and unbolt your cluster and you're done. And they give you all the bulb sockets for the original cluster as well. So it's pretty straightforward, and each bag comes with its own instructions. The main instructions that comes in this bag here, we'll go through and have you open one bag at a time. You don't want to open up all 7 bags and scatter your plugs all over and get everything mixed up. So they'll have an instruction sheet per bag, and the main instructions will let you know which bag to open up first and have you work on a section of the car one per bag at a time. Then we've got also a headlight switch here. This is a slightly updated headlight switch over the original as well. For 57, they do give you a new shaft and knob for the headlight switch, but being that the 57 takes a triangular shaped knob shaft, you can use your original knob and shaft in this kit. You don't have to use their custom one. Just remember that the original knob though does stick out a little further from the dash than the original, because this switch is not as deep as the original. They do throw in, these are courtesy lights. This is extra lighting that can go under the dash, so you don't have to just have your dome light up above. These will bolt onto the lip of the dash, and they'll work in conjunction with the switches and your dome light. These were factory for every convertible because they didn't have a dome light, but these will work in any other car, station wagon, a sedan, or a hardtop. So,
Okay, so Corey wants to know, he says, I'm trying to put front rubber floor mat replacements and you can't get them no more, so how do I work to keep it my grandparents bought? No, sorry guys, new car. Okay. So, okay, he wants to know, he says, can you guys tell me how to put the black carpet in the car, but it won't be the same. Okay, so I guess what he's trying to say is he has front rubber floor mats. He needs to replace them, but he can't get them. I'm a little confused here.
let's see. I'm trying
Sorry
to
guys,
put
one moment.
front rubber floor mat replacements, and you can't get them no more. So how do I keep working to keep it in my grandparents bought new, and the guys that tell me the black carpet in the car but won't be the same. Not sure what year your car is. Let us know what year. I can get the carpet exactly like original, but the accessory floor mats that were offered from the dealership, depending on what year, our floor mats, the set of 4 rubber mats, they're actually patterned after an original deluxe mat for 1957, but they are not exactly like original. There's a couple different characteristics differences. I've only seen one guy make an exact replica of the 57 Deluxe, and unfortunately I think he only made them in one color, probably black.
He has 56.
56. So 56, I'd have to look in the catalog. I thought we had the accessory mats in there. They're not very fancy in those years. They're just rectangular mats with the Chevy bow tie in the middle. And I think we were also recently limited on the color selection as well. We'll have somebody look it up in the catalog real quick just to make sure. But yeah, some of the original stuff is starting to dwindle down a little bit on what's available. So we'll see if we can look up something for you. But as in the floor carpeting, I can get you the Daytona weave carpet. The Daytona weave is the original style. It's cut and formed exactly like the original was in that year. So we buy it for the specific year to make sure it's cut right.
All right, Corey, I hope that helps. If you have any other questions, just let us know. Okay?
And so back to the wiring, we've got a couple more things here. It looks like this custom harness comes with a whole new battery cable here, upgrade for the alternator with a couple more mega fuses, they call it, with it, which is a little bit more durable than what I've seen before. This is can take a lot more amperage.
So what was this for again? Because the wire is so much thicker.
It's to charge the battery. This is the alternator, mostly for the alternator.
All right, guys, bring those questions in. We're waiting.
Let's see if we can look up those floor mats real quick. Yeah, if you guys have any more questions about this wiring too,
You guys should have a lot of questions. I'm just listening, and there's like so much to know. So
I've done a lot of installations. I've done several of these installations for all 3 years. So much that I don't even have to use the instructions too much.
so much that you can just do it blind in your sleep, right?
Yeah. And the stock wiring too, I've done a handful of them. But I do probably do more custom wiring harness kits than I do stock. Stock is for somebody that actually has a stock car, you're still using a generator, you don't plan on going to an alternator. Because that's another thing with this harness kit, you cannot use a generator for this harness kit. It has to be an alternator.
Why is that?
The wiring is different. They've got this kit already made up to use with an internal regulated alternator. It's not made for the separate generator with the separate regulator on the fender. So it would probably be able to be done, but it would take a lot to do it. They don't recommend it. So let's see what we got for floor mats too here. And then we've got, yeah, if you guys have any questions about the harness, I mean, like I said, the instructions are pretty straightforward. They're probably the best instructions I've seen on a custom harness too.
And you guys also too, for next week, if there's anything you would like us to talk about, or actually Frank to discuss, let us know in the comments and we can prepare in advance for that.
Yeah, if there's any parts on the shelf that maybe it's not explained good enough in the catalog too. So we got some, for that question before, we got the factory accessory floor mats for 55, 56, but I do see that we're down to just having black, red, and turquoise.
For the front and rear?
Yeah.
Front and rear 55,
yeah,
56.
these are actually, were in a kind of more of a universal floor mat back in the day. So unfortunately, they're only rectangular or almost square. So they were intended to be used in the front or the rear. So they're sold in pairs of two. So you'd have to buy two sets. So like I was saying before, the fancier mats that we have was called a deluxe mat in 57. So in 57, I think they still had the square mat as a standard mat, and then they offered the deluxe mat that was actually shaped to the shape of the front floor pan. So there was a left mat and a right mat that fit the floor just perfect, and then a set of small rectangular ones for the back seats. I would have to do some research, but I'm almost positive that this is all Chevy offered from the dealership to put in the car. And then there was probably many aftermarket companies making mats for Chevys too. For instance, people used to be able to buy floor mats that went all the way across from one side of the car, over the transmission tunnel and to the other side. That was an aftermarket piece. I don't think Chevy ever made one. Those are something that we might be able to get in carpet from the carpet people. I believe I might be able to get something similar to that for more protection.
All right, so let's go back to this. What are some questions or things that our customers, when they're installing this, that they have issues with? Is there a question that you get over and over that they just aren't able to?
There's a couple things. I'll go over a couple things like this. The taillight harness. The one tricky thing is, and I've done it myself, is get ahead of myself, wiring up the taillight harness and zip tying it up. And then I had forgotten to take the ground wire from the taillight harness out and run it to the driver dome light switch first. And before I run the wire to the actual dome light, they want you to pull it out into the switch, out of the switch, back into the harness. And then you use that plug to plug in the courtesy light. So you're gonna, and then the courtesy light is gonna take the ground to the other side of the car under the dashboard. This one here, yeah, it's just following the instructions really close. If you don't, I've done it at least once or twice where I had to go back, pull some slack into the ground wire to get it out of the harness and get a plug crimped onto it. Another thing we probably get asked for once in a while, they have kind of more of a universal dimmer switch. I believe it's not a problem in 57s to use this one, but for 55, 56 owners, It's a little bit trickier to run the switch exactly in the same place as the original.
Why is that for the 55 and 56? Why is it more difficult?
55, 56 ran their switch underneath the floorboard from almost like outside the car. This switch is designed to be on top of the floor. So you could run this on top of the floor and then the carpet would have to cover it up. So just remember it would be mounted a little different than original. But you could get an original switch. You can even run a 57 switch and a 55 and it will plug right into this harness. It's not a problem. But everything else, so if you got a 55, 56 Chevy, the switch will have a shorter neck on it. It's made for the flat dash. Comes with the proper retainer nut for those 2 years. And then oh yeah, and these will use the original key tumbler. So if you've already got your lock set for your car, the key tumbler will work in the switch. It's not a problem. But it does not come with a tumbler, so you have to, if you don't have one, you're going to need to purchase one. I think we have another switch. This is the whole harness for the front headlights. This is from basically the firewall out to your headlights and park lights and your horns, everything in that kit. I think, but now going back over the stock stuff, you know, like I said before, you know, this is an easier harness to put in, but again, we don't have a lot of protection on this. Now we don't have it out here, but they do have an upgrade fuse panel.
What do you mean by protection? Are those wires can catch on fire?
Yeah, so we don't have, you know, the original harness didn't have every single circuit protected. So if you accidentally pinch a wire and short something out, you may not have a fuse to protect that circuit. You may actually, that whole circuit may actually not literally catch on fire, but it could, you know, get hot and burn some stuff up.
So be careful.
Yeah, so this fuse panel here, we have an upgrade for this. I don't have one out here, but it's maybe half the size of this fuse panel. It will take the same fuses as this fuse panel, and it will replace the glass fuse panel with ATO fuses. It's got 2 built-on relays that are good for an upgrade on certain things. You can substitute it and use it for a horn relay if you like, which I've done before. Or if you have some other, like an electric fan that's being hooked up, you can use one of the relays for it. But yeah, if you already have a new harness or a stock harness, the upgrade to this fuse panel, I've done a couple of those and they work really good too. And it gives you more circuits to fuse. If you need a couple accessories added on, it will do that for you. There's more circuits than this fuse panel has as well.
Okay, let's see here.
Questions coming in?
All right, yes, well, we have one question here. It says, is there any way I can get my Nomad tailgate to lie flat? What modifications do I have to do to my bumper?
I believe to get it completely flat, you'd almost have to remove your bumper guards and have more like a smoothie bumper on the back. But probably more difficult than that is getting the right cable length. Unfortunately, the Nomads already have the longest cable length, so I can't say you can take a regular station wagon cable and throw it in there and it'll fix the problem, because wagon cables are actually a little shorter due to the design of the body. If you compare the two bodies, they were able to actually shorten the cable on a regular station wagon. Nobody that I know of is making that extra long cable either, and it couldn't be too much longer. It'd probably only be a couple inches longer to get it flat. So unless you know somebody that can custom make you a cable the right exact length to get that gate flat, and again, like you were saying, probably the bumper guards are going to have to be removed. make it all work right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Frank.
Yeah.
All right, back to our wonderful discussion of these wiring.
So we don't have too many out here. I think we do have some instructions out here I just noticed.
So do they download these, or these do come with the kits, you said?
No, these all come with the kit.
Okay.
They're all
Oh, that's pretty explanatory there.
color-coordinated,
That is
so-
a nice looking
So this
chart
is
here.
this is more of a full layout of the entire harness. This here is actually color coordinated too. So again, I didn't go over. Besides, we've got a couple things here that they've done more. Every wire is color coordinated to the circuit. A lot of them match what GM used. So if it's, you know, dark blue for the left turn signal and light blue for the right turn signal, it's all done. And unlike the original wiring, this wiring is marked about every few inches where that circuit's going. So if there is another blue wire in the circuit, at least it's going to tell you where it's going, if it's the left turn signal or if it's another circuit for an accessory. And then this is all done the same way. It's all color coordinated, so you can follow the wires a lot easier if you're, you know, confused on one of the circuits. And then you'll find more sheets in here that will give you all the fuse ratings for each circuit when you're getting ready to finish it all up and plug them all in. Yeah, so here's what the sheet looks like with all the bag numbers. So you got every bag has a letter on it and also a part number, so you don't get them confused. So you got a part number first, the bag that it is, if it's bag J or M, and then a description that tells you what's in it. And then once you open up the bag, it's got its own instructions to cover that whole harness. I know for some people wiring is pretty scary. It's a lot of work. I can tell you right now, even with as many as I've done, it could take you upwards of about 20 to 25 hours to put one of these harnesses in. And
That long?
yeah.
That's if you know what you're doing, right? What happens if you're like really confused?
Well,
and take forever?
it's what can be more time consuming is zip tying the wires together and making them nice and neat. Or if you want to cover them, we don't have the covering out here, but there is a split loom covering that you can use over the wires to keep them organized. If the wiring's not showing, I usually zip tie them together. If the wiring is going to show, if it's in the engine compartment, then I might use the split loom conduit over the wires. And we have new conduit now. We have braided conduit that's going to look much better than the old plastic stuff that was ribbed. That's something that GM was using for years. And they might even use it to this day, but the braided stuff looks so much nicer, and we have some that even kind of looks classic looking.
Okay, great. One quick question. We only have another minute left here. What is the difference between trinary versus binary switches for an AC unit?
All right, that's a good question. So every car has to have a binary switch. The binary switch is your low pressure and high pressure for your AC compressor. So if you get a leak in the system, it's gonna, the pressure's gonna drop, and you don't wanna cook your compressor and make a big mess of the whole system if that compressor decides to explode inside. And high pressure is when it gets to the highest pressure it can use, so your hoses don't explode. It shuts down the compressor for that as well. So you got low pressure to shut down and high pressure to shut down. Now when you go to the trinary switch, it still has the high pressure and low pressure switch built into it. Your third switch, the reason it's called a trinary, is it's for an electric fan. So the best thing is, if you got an electric fan, which I recommend a lot of these cars with AC and bigger motors should have an electric puller fan, you're gonna run of course, a thermal switch that's going to turn that fan on at a certain temperature. You've got a relay that's going to turn that fan on, and if the relay is triggered by a ground on the thermal switch. When you hook up your trinary switch, you're going to have two leads. One lead's going to go to a ground, the other lead is going to go where that relay lead is for that thermal switch. So what happens is your thermal switch is designed to turn the fan on, let's say at 190. Okay, if you jump in your car on a 100-degree day, your motor's cold, but you got to turn on the air right away. If the AC condenser is allowed to get too hot before the thermal switch comes on and flips the fan on, then your condenser is going to overheat. And you're not going to get cold air out of the vents anymore. So as soon as you flip the switch on the air conditioner, that's going to bypass the thermal switch on that trinary switch. It's going to flip the relay to tell the fans to come on. Now the fans are cooling your condenser, not necessarily your radiator yet, because your engine ain't warmed up yet.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, guys, that is all for today. It is that time again. But thanks for watching, you guys, and we'll be here next week again. And let us know if there's anything you would like Frank to discuss for next week. And I hope that you guys learned a lot today, and we will see you next week. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
bye.
Bye.